have some bad news for some of us. It looks like we might be leaving the Bone Zone. Ken Bone became America's darling sweetheart after his questions at the Clinton-Trump debate. But now we're learning more about him. He's not as cuddly and sweet as we may have thought, because he recently did a Reddit AMA in which he made the mistake of using his old handle, which was previously anonymous. So there were a lot of things that came up, including comments on Trayvon Martin.
Oops.
It's written pretty small. It doesn't have to be one or the other view here. From what I read about the case, the shooting of Trayvon Martin was justified, but from what I've heard of Zimmerman through statements, interview, and behavior, he is a big old shitbird. Bad guy legally kills a kid in self-defense. Sucks for everybody, including us, due to media fuckery.
This is, so you would think, I mean, I can't stand George Zimmerman. I think he was 100% wrong in shooting Trayvon Martin, but this does not kill it for me for Ken Bone. I actually still think Ken Bone is America.
We have one more.
All right, well, hit me with one more and then we'll come back to this.
He also posted in PreggoPorn, calling pregnant women in swimsuits beautiful human submarines. He's also been shown posting that he enjoyed the Jennifer Lawrence nude pics that were released without her consent. He's also posted in Body Perfection and RealGirls. However, he has also comforted a rape survivor, as shown through that username. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, no, I'm not shaking
Still
from Ken Bone at all. Okay, so first of all, he's into pregnant chicks. Bless his heart. America.
Not the only one.
And in fact, I kind of was amused by beautiful human submarines.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you not amused by that? Okay, now the most troubling
I don't
one.
understand it. Like,
Well, the baby is like riding in a submarine.
because the baby's sort of
and
in
the
the
woman is,
amniotic
like,
fluid
holding.
is under.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right,
you know what?
and he
I
has
didn't
a
even
belly.
try to understand it, and now that I know that it's about the baby, it's more disturbing. But still, I'm way beyond it. I'm way past it. Okay, and as Ken Bone himself said, "Hey, look, man, I'm not running for president. I'm allowed to look at porn." He even said, "This guy's killing me, man. I love this guy." He's like, "I'm allowed to look at porn while I'm taking a shit." That's what he said. Those are words. And he's like,
he
so.
said this in the Reddit AMA.
He said it in the Reddit AMA, and he said, and by the way, so do 10,000 guys an hour in America. Yeah. That's what he said. I don't know about the numbers, but probably somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay, so look, let's hit the hardest one, the Zimmerman Trayvon Martin thing, right? So, but that is what a lot of Americans think. So I like that he called Zimmerman a big old shitbird. Such a Ken Boneism. Okay, it's like we don't know this guy, but you know him, and he's the kind of guy who's a big old shitbird. Okay, and so he doesn't like Zimmerman, and he gets that Zimmerman's a bad guy, but they tricked the whole country into thinking that it was self-defense. A lot of people think that, and some bad-meaning people think that, but some good-meaning people think that who thought, well, I don't know, I heard that he got attacked. And maybe they think that partly because they have racial bias in the back of their head. Yeah. But Ken Bone, I didn't get a sense from those comments or any of these that he's bad to the bone. No.
Damn it. He did clarify his thoughts further in the New York Times recently. These were just posted.
They give him a column?
Not yet. Not his own talk show yet either. He says, if you read the whole post on the Trayvon Martin tragedy, you'll see that I said, based on what I read, which was the release of the DOJ, the shooting was ruled as legally justified. It was also an awful thing to happen. Just because it was legal does not mean it was right. I wish Trayvon were still alive. On Jennifer Lawrence, he said it was a joke.
Can I just say, no, but he's a decent person. Yeah. He is America. He doesn't always get it right. He's still not sure if he's going to vote for Trump or Clinton. He's still considering Trump. I don't agree with everything Ken Bone thinks. Are you crazy? Of course not, right? But he's America, and there's a certain innocence to him in that red sweater. I read those things. I still think that's the guy who busted through the olive suit and had to wear the red sweater. I still got love for that guy.
And there's a whole swath of people, most of this country, that wants things to be even. And that's what he wants too. He wants to be able to say, okay, Trayvon overreacted by grabbing him and throwing him on the ground. He's decided to believe that. I mean, we know that George Zimmerman, we know in our hearts George Zimmerman hunted down Trayvon, and now Trayvon's dead. That somehow the guy without the gun ended up dead, and it was his fault, right? Mm-hmm. Somehow, right? But he wants it to be fair. Like, okay, he's a bad guy. Maybe he's a bad guy. Let's call it even. I mean, Dave Rubin started a whole network on everybody's just as bad. So I think that's what to me, I'm with you. That's sort of where Ken Bone is. Like, can I just please have everybody even? That's why he doesn't want to make this decision.
Because he's a polite guy.
He's a polite guy.
And he
that's
doesn't
right.
want to offend people
he's a
by
decent,
saying they're
polite
bad
guy.
people. Yeah.
You're enamored.
except for the big old
It's
shitbird
so
of Zimmerman.
cute.
What do you think, Kenny? Are you giving a pass so far?
Like you got opinions.
No, I was just kind of waiting, and I'm like, being the only African American male or on the panel, that didn't bother me at all. I mean, it's a whole, like you said, I get it. It's America, so it's not surprising that a lot of people think that way. A lot of people haven't grown up, and no, not all black people are from the inner city, as Donald Trump would say. I didn't grow up in the inner city, but
Really?
What?
however, I would say, like, I definitely agree 1,000%. It is the sentiment of a lot of people based on what they read. Me understanding that when I was 12, I was followed around a video store. I was followed around in like different instances. I see it, I have a different perspective. Someone that hasn't been in that world, that's living in a completely different world, yet in the same country, I understand and I get his comments. Like, I wasn't mad about that. And I get the pregnant women. Like, I have friends that are like, yo, pregnant girls are so hot. And I'm like, what? So it's not the first time I've heard that either. So it's like, he's your typical guy that you would just see anywhere, I think.
Okay, so far Kim's not buying it, but finish the story,
No,
Kim, and then
I feel kind of neutral on him. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think it's adorable that you're enamored with Ken Bone. He also went on to talk about the Jennifer Lawrence comment, saying it was a joke in poor taste, made under my former anonymity. I take full responsibility for saying it. I wholeheartedly apologize and wish I could say so to her directly. And he also cleared up that he did on that account tell a story about committing insurance fraud, but he said that it was a made-up story.
So
No,
on the
it
Reddit AMA, he talked about Jennifer Lawrence on the Reddit AMA, or other people.
No. If you go into his comment history, you can see what he has said before.
I got you.
So
Okay.
usually what people do is they hide their Reddit username under all costs, because sometimes some unpopular stuff gets said, sometimes some shitty stuff gets said. It's become kind of a joke that you just want to hide your Reddit name from your loved ones.
Isn't that the internet, though?
Yeah.
still on his side. He hasn't lost me yet. So he said bad things about a celebrity. Okay, may have even looked at Jennifer Lawrence's tapes as approximately 98.5% of American males did.
I know, but not you.
Okay, so all right, I don't agree with him on that, but that's America. And insurance fraud, also America. So
Well, he's a person, is what we've learned.
Have we all not broken a rule, broken a law? I mean, I was speeding on the way here. It said 35, I was going 55. I'm sorry, it was a residential area, but we all do something that,
I know, going 35 and a 50, going 55 and a 35 is a little different than insurance fraud. But I
But
hear
my
you.
point is, there's something that we all stretch at some point in time.
Yeah,
We don't know exactly what he may have defrauded, but
Yeah, it depends on who he. Look,
it's Ken Bone.
I mean, mostly I wish he hadn't admitted it. Like, just because he's now, because a person who hadn't been exposed to widespread media attention came forward and now accidentally outed himself about something that he had mentioned before. Like, I don't want him to get in trouble for that. I suspect the insurance company survived. That said, don't commit insurance
did
fraud.
say he made
because
it up.
we all pay for it.
Right. Well, depending on who gets elected, or who after this election, if he goes Trump or Clinton, if he goes Clinton, they're definitely going to come after him. If he goes Trump, I think he's good in the clear. So,
look, Ben, I hear you. It was a boneheaded move.
God damn it.
at the same time, do you think he obviously did not know that him busting his suit, putting on a sweater was going to change his life?
No,
He didn't know.
He didn't.
What was
know.
his question?
It was about
about
energy.
climate
It was a good
change.
question.
Right.
It was a question that is not often asked. So, look, he's an average guy. And average guys, and by that I mean like all of us. I don't mean average in anything other than someone not in the public eye. They do things. Do you not have friends? Right? They do things that are sometimes wrong. They have opinions that are wrong. They look at the wrong porn, whatever the wrong porn is, right? And so, like, I don't sense any malice from Ken
Yeah.
Bone,
Yeah, good
right?
call.
And I think that's why people have kind of. By the way, there's now a group of his supporters called the Boneheads.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
and he's
that's-
selling shirts that say Bone Zone
That's
now.
awesome. That's so
Okay, that's
smart.
awesome. Okay, and so that's why we've all entered the bone zone because
Weird coming out of your mouth.
because there's a certain innocence to him that that he exudes, and everybody gets it, and they get. There's no guy who puts on a Christmas sweater like that to go on TV that has malice in his heart.
Yeah.
So we can get behind Ken Bone, warts and all. So let's give him a break and throw him one more bone.
Did you see the midnight Twitter hashtag war on Ken Bone facts?
Oh no! Oh,
Yeah, it was pretty. Mine weren't particularly good, but I'll read them anyway. Sometimes when he's alone, Ken Bone eats pizza with a knife and fork.
no, it's true.
What?
And then
Because he doesn't want to get it on the
doesn't
sweater.
want to get right.
Oh.
Yeah. Ken Bone's eyeglasses weren't ready in about an hour, but he didn't complain.
He's looking like a champ.
Ken Bone is gonna become like Chuck Norris.
Yeah,
Like the teddy bear version.
right.
Yes, the teddy bear.
And oh, by the way, we forgot in the Reddit AMA, they asked him about Bernie Sanders. He's like, oh, I really liked him. Yeah, see, he seemed like he was for us. I knew Ken Bone was the right guy.
That's how we
I
won
knew
you
it.
over.
Right? See, but by the way, that also is America. They knew in their heart that Bernie Sanders was for us, and they're not sure if it's Trump or Clinton. Ken Bone is us. We are Ken Bone.
Had enough. It's gonna stop.
No, it's not. There's even more if you're a Young Turks member. Join us at tytnetwork.com/join.